I.Eat.Games, yeah.
Hey Wastelanders, Mark here, and I thought I would create a pretty quick and easy camp basics guide made simple. It can be a little tricky because it is very similar to Fallout 4, but there are some quirks and there are some weird things happening with this game, so let's go ahead and talk about them. But first things first, when you start playing the game, you should definitely go and complete the Overseer's mission and the Responders missions. Once you go through those, it's going to lead you through Vault 76 here, and it's going to take you all the way down here to Flatwoods. You're going to do some things in here, but those missions are really important because they're going to teach you how to make food and water, and all those things are vital to Fallout 76 and surviving in the wasteland. It is definitely not as forgiving as Fallout 4. So once you go through Flatwood, the missions will take you up. I think there's one mission that takes you over here, and then eventually you're going to end up over here in Morgantown, and that's where I am right now too. And so once you're around in between levels 5 and 10, then it's a pretty good idea, I think, to set up your first camp. And I highly recommend you set up camp outside. I mean, you can't set it up in here anyways, but you kind of want to set it around where you're adventuring, because all that stuff... Whoop! I'm going to go hide in here because some mole rats just popped up. Hey! Come on now. Oh my god, this is awesome that this is happening in the middle of me recording. This is the best. What? How did you get through the wall? Oh my god, that was great. I'm so keeping that in here. Oh, there's another one. They're coming through the floor. Oh, this is great. Hey, you know what? I got some meat out of that, which is awesome. Okay, so back to the guide. Where were we? Okay, so yeah, once you get up here, and you're around levels 5 to 10, then setting up camp is a good idea. And along the way, you want to be sure that you are picking up wood. You can get wood when you're scrapping stuff, from like all the junk that you pick up on the wasteland, but you can also pick up a bunch of wood on the ground. Let me see if I can find some. There should be some around here. Oh man, I can't believe I can't find any wood. Okay, here we go. Yes, log, gather. Okay, look in the upper left-hand corner, wood scraps. So picking up wood can be pretty simple, and it appears to be just about everywhere. So you shouldn't have a problem finding wood. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now I'm starting to come across it. So if you gather wood as you're making your way up here, you should have plenty of wood by the time you want to build your camp. So let's talk about why you want to build camp, the reasons why you want to build camp. You saw that on the map, there's a little tent icon, and you can fast travel to it. And fast traveling to your camp is free. It doesn't cost any money whatsoever, no matter how far away you are. It's always going to cost nothing. Because fast traveling in general does cost money. For instance, if I want to fast travel to let's go to this Morgantown station. It costs 1 camp. Okay, that's not that much money, but it does tend to add up once you start fast traveling quite a bit. Also, there's a stash box. So let me see if I can find it here. So there's a stash box that you can build. Here's mine. And the stash box is great because it is 100% secure. Nobody else can get into it but you. And you can store a ton of stuff in there. And, whoops. Get out of workshop mode. So you can just dump a ton of stuff in there, like it's weapons you don't want to get rid of yet, stuff you want to hold on to. And so having the stash is super important, especially if you want to securely put your stuff in there. So let's talk about your basic camp, setting up your first camp. So in order to bring up the workshop mode, or actually drop your camp, you could do it 2 ways. You can bring up your Pip-boy, And see in the bottom left-hand corner, for me it says move camp, but when you first do it, it's just going to say hit L1 to put down your camp. And it's going to be left bumper on Xbox. It does cost money every time you do it, so keep in mind moving can be expensive if you do it a lot. I ate through a bunch of my credits and I forgot about the charge. Caps are not easy to come by early in the game. But yeah, so once you hit L1, then you're going to be able to put your camp down. And when you put it down, then you can walk up to it and hit X to build, and that'll start up workshop mode. Or you can press and hold the touchpad, like this. And if you're on the Xbox, it's going to be one of the view and the menu button, those two little small buttons. I'm not sure which one it is, but you press and hold one of those, and it will also bring up workshop mode. But you have to have your camp out in order to do that. So once you've done that, let's talk about the basics. If you see the menu up top, you can use the left bumper or right bumper to cycle through all the different categories. And when you're building, the first thing you have to do is start with a foundation. You have to start with a floor. So I'm going to go ahead and put down a floor here. And when it's green, obviously that means you could build it. And when it's red, that means it is not in a position where it can be built. There's either a rock or something is in the way. So keep in mind, when you're building your first thing, keep it small like this, because resources are going to be super limited and you don't want to get too crazy with it. You just want something that you can enter, sleep, and protect yourself unless it's a mole rat that is warping through the wood, which is crazy, but hey, that's what we expect in these games, right? Wacky things like that. So yeah, keep it small. I would say I built two floor units. That's a good start, unless your wood is even more limited. So next, you want to build walls. So if you look at the once you go into the categories like floor, wall, roofs, we're going to go into walls. Now there's another submenu down on the bottom or on the left side of the screen. And there are, if you use the D-pad, you can scroll up and down to select all, like a bunch of different stuff in there. Well, you can also press left and right on the D-pad because there are things within there as well. When I admit, the first time I built my structure, I was trying to figure out why the heck I couldn't build a door, one of these guys, into the wall. And yeah, you can't do that. It doesn't automatically snap into the wall and break open a space for the door. You actually have to build a wall that has an opening for the door, like that. So let's build the rest of this here. Go here and here. And we'll build one right there. Okay, now that we have that built, we need a roof. So let's go up top. We're going to hit R1, go over to roofs, and we're going to build something super simple. There we go. There's the basics. Now, doors tend to protect you, but clearly it didn't protect me from that mole rat. But you should definitely build a door in your structure. So this is like super basic, super simple, and that's what it should be when you build your very first camp. Now, when you're building something, I want to point out that, let's just take this right here. So if you want to fine-tune the movement, like if you're finding it's not snapping the way you want, you can use, when you're holding it, you can use L2 or R2 to spin it and move it around. And then another thing you can do, which is really, really helpful, if you press and hold the X button, keep it pressed in, use your left stick, you can move it and get really precise movement if you're having trouble trying to get it to snap into something. Or if you just really want to place something on the ground like a crafting station specifically somewhere. So you're going to press and hold the X button to do that, to move it around. So I'm going to hit the circle button to put that back where it was. Now, if you're going to build something with multiple stories, be sure you build stairs that are attached to the floor first, and then you build the floor on top of the stairs. You cannot build a second story until you actually build up and place the stairs onto the existing foundation first. Okay, so next thing, I'm going to talk the difference between storing and scrapping, because there is a big difference. So if you look in the bottom where it says store, scrap, replace, I'm going to hit the square button, and that would be the X button on the Xbox. And now it brings up a little menu, scrap, store, replace. Well, when you scrap something, it's going to break that piece into all the little parts that make it up. In this case, it's just wood, right? But the penalty is you get 50% of your materials back. So scrapping is not fun. Scrapping should only be done if you absolutely need the parts from this piece. Otherwise, you store it. When you store something, it saves it for later. And if you look in the menu here, if you go to the left where it says stored, you can see that wall. And it's 100% of the materials are left there. I don't get the wood from it, but I keep that wall, and I could use it later, and it gets stored. Now keep in mind, you see the budget box in the upper right-hand corner? Items that are in your stored menu count towards that budget. So if you are nearing the maximum, the limit of your budget, come check your stored tab and see if there's stuff you can get rid of and scrap, or use them to build. Also, let's talk about blueprints real quick. Blueprints are pretty awesome. Let me go back and I'm going to store this wall here. There we go. Blueprints are pretty interesting. If you find that you are building something often, like let's say I wanted to build like 4 of these. So if I come over to the blueprint section, and then, yes, okay, sorry, you have to switch. So if you look on the bottom where it says switch to modify, and I hit the circle button or the B button on the Xbox, you can switch. There's build mode and there's modify mode. I'm switching back and forth right now. So we want to be in build mode. And so what you do, if you want to create a blueprint, highlight an item, press and hold the X button. Now it's going to turn blue. So I'm going to start selecting. I'm hitting the X button now, and this is selecting a bunch of items. And we're going to grab this wall too. We're going to grab the floor. And let's see if I can grab the ceiling from here. There we go. And the door. Okay, so this whole thing is tagged for blueprint. Now, if you look at the bottom, it says create a blueprint. I'm going to hit the square button. And now it's going to ask me, okay, where do you want to stick this blueprint? And what do you want to call it? So let's just call it, actually, let's just call it a shack. Okay, so now if I want to build another one, if I go over here to blueprints, there it is. Okay, you can see now that I'm in blueprint, I only have one blueprint, but it's that shack right there. So I can rotate it, I can press and hold the X button if I want to move it in and out. But this allows you to build multiple structures of the same type of structure if you want to quickly, without having to go in and rebuild them and stuff like that. So pretty fun. Let's talk about the last thing that is pretty important with camp basics, and that is moving your camp. So if you want to move your camp, you bring up your Pip-boy, and see where it says move camp at the bottom? It's going to cost 5 caps. So if I hit L1, that brings up my little camp right here. And that means you would do this when you're not near your own camp. Actually, let me cancel out of this, because you leave your camp where it is and you travel around the world. So let's say I'm a couple miles away, I'm over here, and I am ready to move my camp. Well, I don't have to go all the way back to my camp to go grab it. I would just bring up my Pip-boy, hit L1, and oh, surprise, shock, it is actually happy with this area, which is awesome. Okay, so there it is. And now I have moved my camp, and it is here. And then if I want, I can start building. And if you look in the stored, there's the blueprint. I should probably keep my guns loaded so that I am ready whenever these things attack me. You'd think I would learn. I am not very good at video games. Let's go back into build mode. So press and hold the touchpad. So if you look at stored on the left-hand side there's all my stuff, and there's that small building I had, and here is the big building, which is my regular sleep shack. And I'm going to hold in the X button so I can position it a little better. There we go. Let go of X, now hit X again. And there it is. Don't forget to like and subscribe, folks. I hope this has helped you out understanding the very basics of your camp. I'm probably going to make some advanced videos, so don't forget to subscribe, and that way you'll get notified when my videos go up. Thanks. Hope you're having fun with the game.